Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Agentforce for Marketers series. So this is a continuation of the first two series that we have done. The first series was the Agentforce series that gives an introduction to the Agentforce, which was covered in 8 sessions. So which includes all the fundamentals of the Agentforce and different use cases. The second series was the Marketing Cloud on Core, which covered the growth and advanced editions. So the third series is like building on top of those two series. So this is a mix of both of those Agentforce and the Marketing Cloud. So this is like the third part of the series that we have been doing. So this is made possible with the collaboration with Gilda and Ali, Christopher and Ty. So Ali, Christopher and Ty are going to be the speakers covering various use cases, that Agentforce related use cases that can be done on the Marketing Cloud Core or MCAE or integration with the MCE, Marketing Cloud Engagement. Firstly, would like to welcome you all to this series and thank you very much for continuing the learning journey with us. So this is in collaboration with Gilda Hilaire, the amazing person. So she is the director of product marketing at Salesforce. And myself, I am Salesforce MVP, marketing champion and golden hoodie recipient. I work as a marketing cloud consultant at ArcSight, and I lead the Salesforce Global Bootcamp group, and I run various sessions on the marketing cloud and related products. And here's our rough outline for this series. So today we're going to kick off, and Ali is going to cover how to use Agentforce to create marketing email campaigns. So the next few sessions as well will be covered by Christopher, Ali, and Ty. So they're going to cover different use cases, different Agentforce specific use cases that can be done using the MCE or MCAE, marketing intelligence, and Marketing Cloud Core. I'll be sharing the links to each of these sessions shortly in the chat. Make sure that you register to each and every session. The timing for all these sessions is going to be 8 a.m. Eastern every Tuesday and Thursday. We're going to add few more sessions accordingly. So make sure that you join the group so you get automated notifications. And if you FAQs, this session will be recorded, and all the further sessions in this series will be recorded and they will be uploaded to the YouTube channel @MC Learning Camp. Please post any questions that you have related to the session in the chat window. And after the session, if you have any further questions, slack.mclearningcamp.com is the Slack channel dedicated for this MC Learning Camp series sessions. So you can post the questions in that Slack channel. And this is the link for the Salesforce Global Bootcamp group. Make sure you join to this group so you get automated notifications. And we do have some swag for the regular attendees of this bootcamp. So let's say we have 5 sessions or 6 sessions in this series, at least 4 sessions. If somebody has attended at least 4 of these sessions, they would be eligible to receive the Salesforce certification vouchers. We will be picking the winners in the last session. During the last session, we will be picking the winners and awarding the vouchers. And also, as you are learning some new things from these sessions, make sure you share those learnings on the social, so people who cannot attend, they will learn from that. Share all your key learnings on the LinkedIn or Twitter and use these hashtags, MC Learning Camp and Women Marketers, and make sure you tag Gilda, myself, Ali, Christopher, Ty. And a short shout out on the connections coming up in June in Chicago. Make sure you register to this one. The registrations will be open soon. And in today's session, Ali is going to cover about how to create email campaigns using Agentforce. And Ali, I will turn it over to you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, JB. Can you please make Stain as a co-host? He was joined as well.
Sure.
All right. Let me just quickly share my screen. Okay, I think we're good to go. Can you confirm you can see on my screen, Jamie?
All good, Ali.
All right, brilliant. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Ali Said. I am the co-founder of Connect Digital. Today, I'll be taking you through how to use Agentforce to create email marketing campaigns, how to create journeys, specifically on Marketing Cloud engagement. For those who are interested in how you can use Agentforce on core, which is Marketing Cloud Growth and Advanced, please check out the last session from the last series by Claudia. She did a very thorough session on how you can use Agentforce on Growth and Advanced. So that's a fabulous session if you guys have missed out. So as I mentioned today, we're going to just focus on Marketing Cloud engagement. Feel free to ask any questions. Today is really just a flavor on how you can use Agentforce. The possibilities are endless. Today is just an example on how amazing Agentforce is and how you can create those journeys and email campaigns. Before we get started, I'm sure everyone's familiar with this slide. Please base any purchasing decisions based on what's available today. And I've already did an intro, but I'll just summarize what I do as well. So I'm a co-founder at Connect. We run a marketing cloud implementation partner here based in Dubai. I'm also a marketing champion and also a Trailblazer CGL based here in Dubai. I do have my colleague here with me, Stein Hoster, who's our digital practice lead. So he'll be supporting throughout this session to answer any questions that you might have. He might jump in and share some of his thoughts. He's the one also helped me to put this all together. So, want to give a shout out to Stein for sorting this out as well. So today's agenda is essentially, as I mentioned, is to show you guys how to use Marketing Cloud engagement and how you can connect that to your current Salesforce org, how you can have that connectivity built in so you can start using Agentforce to start creating campaigns and start creating journeys. We'll go through all the necessary steps and prerequisites to get that all configured. The second step is to create that first agent, how you can create that agent to then listen to some of the prompts that you will be putting in to create those email templates, email campaigns, and journeys. And then we'll create a couple of actions. So we're going to focus on 2 actions today. So the first action is how you can create the email creation action, and that will use some predefined templates and predefined configurations, which I'll take you through to create those email templates. And then the journey creation action, which is how you can then use some of those email campaigns and create a journey directly into Marketing Cloud. We'll run a couple of prompts. We'll try the agent on both scenarios to give you a flavor on some of the conversations that you can have with Agentforce to create those email campaigns. So let's get started. So these are a list of prerequisites that you need to have enabled and configured on your Marketing Cloud instance, and also your Salesforce org to ensure that Agentforce is communicating between the 2 different platforms. So I'll be taking you through. So for every segue, I'll take you through an actual live demonstration for you to see how we have this configured on the platform, on both platforms. And on this slide, we're essentially going to take you through how you can create an install package on Marketing Cloud engagement. And again, how you can then configure those credentials directly into your Salesforce org. The third part is creating custom objects. So in order for this to work, we have to create custom objects to store some of the definitions and some of the configuration that we have defined in Marketing Cloud. And that includes send classification, which is your delivery profile and your sender profile, the event definition. So this is the event definition key that gets generated from Journey Builder, which we'll use to communicate between the two different platforms and start sending out journeys. And then finally, the email templates. So for every email that we create using Agentforce, there needs to be a predefined template with a look and feel where Agentforce will use to create those different email campaigns directly into Marketing Cloud. We'll do a very high-level refresher, how you turn on Einstein to ensure that your agents are up and running and configured, how we can activate those journeys, and then finally, anything that we do today, you have to ensure that there is a permission set configured and set to the user so you can start using Agentforce properly. So let's get right into it. So these are the steps that I'll take you through right now. So let's start with Marketing Cloud. Okay, so as I mentioned, the first thing we need to do is configure an install package. So within your Marketing Cloud instance, the first thing you need to go is within apps and click on install packages. Now, I already have everything configured and built, but I'll take you through all the different components in more detail. So first thing first is the Agent API creds. So this install package is essentially as a server-to-server integration that allows you to communicate and integrate into your Salesforce org. When you create your install package, you'll be given a client ID and also a unique URL that is tailored to your instance. Previously, the client secret would be shown on this page, but it is now secure, so it's masked, so you don't see it. But when you do create your install package, you'll get presented with, as I mentioned, the client ID, your client secret, the URL to connect to. And also it's very important that when you create this install package, you have the right scope in place. So just ensure that if you're using it for email creation purposes and for journeys, that you have all the defined scope in detail. So once this part is done and you've received your client ID and your client secret, now we need to go back into your Salesforce org to ensure that you have built the necessary credentials and the connectivity between the two different platforms. So if I go into the setup of your Salesforce org, and the first thing you need to search for is named credentials. Okay. Within your named credentials, you're presented with two key areas that we have to configure this in. So the first one is your named credentials, which is essentially what's going to be used to connect into Marketing Cloud. But before you can create your named credentials, you have to set up your external credentials. And the external credentials are the area where you'll configure your client ID and your client secret. So within your external credentials, I've already created this, which is called Salesforce Marketing Cloud APIs. And within that, you will have to have defined the URL, which is captured from your Marketing Cloud setup, which is just right here. You'll have to have your client ID and your secret configured. So the client ID matches the client ID that I have, apologies, over here. And the client secret, as I mentioned, is currently masked, okay? This tells you which named credentials is associated with this external credential. So it just gives you a snapshot of what's already been configured. But once you've configured your external conditions, you'll have to go back and set up your named credentials. So I've created two named credentials, one for the purpose of your REST APIs and one for your SOAP APIs, okay? They're slightly configured differently, but majority is the same. So if I start with Marketing Cloud REST, again, it's using the same URL. The only thing that's different over here is your call out option. So with REST APIs, we have to ensure that you're checking the generate authorization header. And then the URL is the same. But with the SOAP credentials, it's slightly a little bit different. We have to select a different caller option and also a different URL. So the caller option for your SOAP is to allow formulas in HTTP header and allow formulas in HTTP body. And the big difference is you have to make sure that you add this extension at the end of URL, which is your service.asmx, okay? So with those two pieces from your Marketing Cloud install package and from your marketing and for your Salesforce org credentials, you essentially now have built an integration to start communicating between the two different platforms, okay? So that first part is now complete. The second part, as I mentioned, we have to create custom objects, okay? These custom objects, it's just worth pointing out. So everything that I'm showing you today, I'll be sharing a GitHub repository, which will contain the details of the custom objects that you have to create, any Apex classes that I will show you today, any API, so you guys can try this out yourselves on your own instance. But let me quickly take you through your external objects, okay? So as I mentioned, we have to create 3 different custom objects. One to store the send classification details. The second is to store the event definition ID, which is used for Journey Builder. And thirdly is for your email template, okay? Once you create it as a custom object, you obviously have them in the app launcher. But for the sake of time, I've already have these tabs already ready. Okay. So over here, I've created an email template already, which is called Alpha. Okay. And as I mentioned, this is a custom object that I'm only storing a couple of fields. So the first one is storing the email data, the name of the template. And over here is the HTML that Agentforce will be using to create your email campaigns. So as I mentioned, this is just an example. You can create as many email templates as you like. And then when you're prompting your agent, you can tell which email template to select. And essentially, this is a templatized approach, right? So when you create your email content and you're using your agent, it's going to use the shell and essentially will just fill in the body copy. So then you're again saving time instead of you creating a template over and over again. Okay, so that's the first custom object. As I mentioned, this is just purely just an HTML within the custom object. The second one is the MCE event definition. Okay, what we're storing here is the value that will be generated when you create your journey. Okay, so everyone who uses Journey Builder, you should be familiar that when you create an API event on Marketing Cloud and Journey Builder, you're presented with an event definition ID. Okay, once you create that event definition ID, essentially you're just storing that as a placeholder. You're not really going to be using that exact same journey. You just need the definition ID that will be used in this setup. So again, just a couple of fields. The first field is Agentforce event, and then the second field is Agentforce journey demo. So that's the second custom object. The third custom object is your send configuration. So within Marketing Cloud, you'll obviously have your send classification, which is combining two key areas, which is your sender profile and your delivery profile. Okay, so your sender profile is essentially your from name and your from email address. Your delivery profile is your IP address. And then the classification is whether it's commercial or transactional. So all the information, it must be captured directly into this custom object. And to refresh your memory how you grab these IDs, if we go back into setup and go to feature settings, email studio, send classification, you essentially just right click on the classification itself, copy the link address, paste in your browser, and that is your ID. Okay, that's your the ID definition that will be used in your custom object. All right, so make sure that you're capturing these at a delivery profile, sender profile, and a send classification level. Okay, so once that's been captured, as I mentioned, you'll go back and build this out, and then you're good to go from a prerequisite perspective. The next part is just to make sure that everything is turned on, your AI is turned on, your Einstein's turned on, your Agentforce is turned on. We go back into settings and search for generative. I'll continue when I started again.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. So go to Einstein setup, make sure all these toggles are turned on. So turn on Einstein, turn on global language, support for prompt builder, turn on deploy templates. All these are essential for Agentforce to work. And then once that's been turned on, please remember to refresh your page. You'll then go into Agentforce, okay, which is, where are we? Am I going blind? Oh, yeah, we go. Okay, so make sure that Agentforce is turned on. Again, when you turn this on, make sure you refresh your page, and then you'll have your first agent created, which is the default version of your agents when you first turn this on. So once you've configured all of this, you'll have your agents, and then you're good to go. So now you can start building your actions, your topics, and all the necessary configuration that's going to be needed to create your campaigns and your journeys. Okay, so I'll just quickly go back to the slides. Okay, so just to summarize, we've shown you how you can create your installed package on Marketing Cloud, how you can then configure those credentials into your Salesforce org, creating your custom objects that's going to store your definition IDs, turning on Einstein, activating your engines, and just make sure that any permission sets that you've already pre-configured for your user, that all these are configured on a user level. Okay. Now we'll take you through how you can create your first agent. Okay, you can amend your existing default agent that would have been created when you first turn on Agentforce, or you can just create a brand new agent. Within that, we would create the necessary topic. Okay, so the topic is what's going to initiate the conversations between yourself and the agent to start creating your email campaigns and your journeys. When you create your topic, you have to define the following, okay? You have to define your classification, your scope, your instructions, and then define what those example inputs that would be needed to have those conversations started, okay? So I'm gonna go back into the setup, and I click on the Agentforce default version, open in Builder, okay? Given that this is a default agent created automatically by Salesforce, you would have already some topic labels already pre-created from the default asset library that you have on the org. That's why it's got the little sort of world sign, the global sign on your instance. I've already pre-created the marketing journey creation. This was a topic that I created from scratch. Okay, so when you create a new topic, as I mentioned, you can add it directly from the asset library or create a new one. In this example, I've created a new one, which is called a marketing journey creation. And within that, as I mentioned, we have to define a couple of fields or a couple of inputs. The first one is the classification description. Okay, so I'll quickly hover over the information sign on what this means. So when you start a conversation with an agent, it needs to know at what point in time it needs to use this topic, okay? Because you are going to have multiple topics. Agentforce will, or the agent will need to know which topic to use in your conversation. So you defining this classification essentially is giving heads up to your agent to understand which classification to use, so then they can use the necessary scope and the instructions and everything else, okay? So in this example over here, I've created a classification to say, to create and manage your marketing journeys in Marketing Cloud, to generate email content, configuring wait steps. It's very similar to the scope, but it's important that we've defined that at a classification level. Okay. Within the scope, again, very similar to the classification, but this is essentially telling the agent what its job and what it's meant to do. So your job is to only assist with creating marketing journeys in Marketing Cloud engagement. This includes generating email content, defining wait periods, defining journey components, everything that you want this agent to do. You can write this and obviously in natural language, and then you can tidy this up by using the suggestion improvement button. So you can write this and then complete this, and if you're unhappy with how it's been described, you can always use the suggestion improvement button, and then it will tidy it up for you. Once you've defined your classification and your scope, this is where it's important you start defining the instructions for your agent to pick up when it starts creating your email campaigns and your journeys. Okay, every important instruction, every important aspect that you need it to have configured, please make sure you add this. Okay, so the more that you've defined the instructions, the more accurate your agent is going to be. Some examples worth mentioning, for example, here, subscriber's first name should always be represented as first name. So when Agentforce and your agent is going to pick up your email copy and is going to build that body essentially to put it into email template, is always going to add first name. So that's going to be an important aspect when you're using personalization in your emails when it goes into Marketing Cloud. You can define the character limit. So in here, I've mentioned that your pre-headers should be between 85 to 100 characters. You can define the tone of the email. In this example here, I've said, use a conversational, friendly tone throughout the format. Add how many line breaks do you want to add. So, all that information that you want in your email campaigns, is defined within these instructions, okay? And once you've defined your classification and you define your scope and your instructions, the next part is giving the agent some examples of the prompts you'll be asking in your conversation, okay? So again, these are some examples. Again, the more the merrier, the more input that you've added in, the more your agent will understand. But in here, we're saying, design a journey to promote our upcoming holiday specials. Help me create a two-email journey for our seasonal promotion. Again, these are some examples that you will be using in your input in your conversations. All right. So once this part is done, which is essentially the first step when you're creating your agent, what's next after when you create your topics is going to be your actions. Again, you can create as many actions as possible. And in today's example, we've created 2 actions. One is to create the email, and one is to create the journeys. So if I go back to my slides, and I'll take you through what's going to be needed. So in order for this to work, we are using Apex actions or Apex classes for email creation. As I mentioned, I'll be sharing some of that code of Apex in the GitHub after today's session, and we'll share it online. But essentially, that's very important for the email creation. Once you've created your Apex class, we then create the agent action. And then within the agent action, you can define basically your inputs, your outputs, the type of action it is. So you can have obviously flows, you can have Apex classes. For the email creation, we're going to be using Apex. And for the journey creation, we'll be using a flow. It's worth mentioning that all these actions that you create can be leveraged and used across multiple agents. So you're not just tied to this topic only, you can actually use it across multiple agents as well. Okay, so let's go back into a live demonstration. So if I go back over here, and if I click on same topic, apologies, click on the actions. Okay, so we have two actions created. The first action is creating your Marketing Cloud email. And the second action is the journey creation flow. Again, similar to the list of topics, there are a list of actions that you can add from the default asset library, which you can use. So if I click into this, you have all these different types of actions. There's 83 at the moment, and it's continuing growing. But for today's obviously customized solution, we're using a new action that I've created. There's also Agent Exchange, which is an app exchange for Agentforce. This is again implementation partners, other technology vendors who would have created different actions that you can browse and install into your topic. So if I click into Create Marketing Cloud Email, okay, so there's the 3 key areas really that needs to be defined on our own action. One is the reference action. What is it actually going to be calling? In this example, we'll be calling an Apex action. So this Apex is already predefined and pre-created in advance, which I'll take you through in a moment. The second part is the instruction. So in here is creating an email in Marketing Cloud with specific content and metadata. Users action after generating and confirming email content with the user. So again, specifically mentioning what this action should be doing. And then the important piece, in order for this action to work, you need to essentially provide it information that it needs to create or to execute that action. So on the left-hand side, highlighted in blue is your inputs, and on the right in green is the outputs. So everything on the left-hand side, you can see we have checked the require input button. And this is, as I mentioned, is metadata that's going to be needed to create the necessary email. So in here is the body content is an important aspect to create the email copy. The email name, what should you call the email name when it creates it in Marketing Cloud? The email pre-header, and the email subject. So as you can see here, everything here is checked for require input, which is going to be important when you're having a conversation with your agent. On your right-hand side is your outputs. So what we're going to be using here is any information that you'll pass on to your agent is going to use that and then output into the conversation and output into the actual email itself. Okay, so the email pre-header is going to be embedded into the email itself, the email subject line, the final email name, the legacy ID. So the legacy ID is actually going to be the email ID that's going to return when you create the email. So this is what's going to be important to pass through into the APIs to then create that directly into Marketing Cloud. And then the only thing that's going to show within the conversation, you can define what which output is going to be shown within the conversation. So over here is just for the sake of today's demo, we're just going to show a true or false Boolean into the conversation just to let us know that everything is being created and it has worked successfully. So once you've defined your inputs and your outputs, I'll quickly show you the Apex class as well to give everybody a flavor of what needs to be done. I have already opened, okay, which is this one. So this Apex class is pre-built, and what we're using here is defining the APIs, defining the labels that we're going to be using in the inputs and the outputs. And we're also going to be defining what's going to be using from those 3 custom objects that I've created. So if you recall, I created an email template, which is called Alpha. So in this example here, in row 13 and 14, we're mentioning that we'll be using the email template where it's called Alpha, okay? And if I scroll down, okay, we have your inputs, and there's going to be your responses. So the input that I've defined here on the left-hand side over here, so your copy, email name, pre-header, and subject is defined in this Apex class. You can see this is what's going to be required to trigger the action. And then the public responses is, as I mentioned, the legacy ID is the email subject, the email name, the pre-headers, and then the success of true or false if everything went well in the conversation. Okay, so this is very important that you define that in your Apex class as well. Okay, and as I mentioned, I'll be sharing this on the GitHub as well. All right. Now let's see this in action. So the next part is we're going to try the agent. So if I go back over here and go back into actions, go back to my topics, let's close this down. Okay, I'm going to be using a simple prompt that I already have created, and I'm just going to paste this in over here. And the prompt is, help me create an email announcing our custom clearance sale. We're offering 40% off all summer items and an extra 10% for loyalty members. So before I create that, before I hit enter, as you can see, we have no email content and no journeys, except for this one. And if I go back to my agent and hit enter, okay, so immediately what you can see, first of all, is your session ID. So this is very, very important when it comes to troubleshooting and storing this within the log within Data Cloud. Okay, so for every conversation, you'll be able to then troubleshoot, understand every session that's been initiated when you speak to an agent. So this session ID is going to be an important identifier to relate back into your log. But what you can see right now is you can see the topic has been selected based on the conversation. So based on the classification and based on the scope, the agent knew that we're going to be using the marketing journey creation topic, okay? And on the right-hand side now, it's coming back with asking for more information from me, is what is the email name that I want to use? What is the subject line, the pre-header, and the body content? So it says, once I have this information, I can create the email content for you, which is great. So I'm going to go and say, one, please call this MC Learning Camp summer sale. Two, please use a subject line of your own, mentioning the discounts. And then three, same as the subject line, shorter, and then 4, be creative. You choose. Okay, amazing. So it gave me a true Boolean success, which, as I mentioned in my output, it said that my email has been successfully created, and how else can I assist? What's important as well on the left-hand side, initially when we started this session, is shown the topic that it was created, but now because we are specifically talking about creating the actual email, it specified the action that was used. So it's very important that you also troubleshoot this and test this as much as you can, because that essentially when building an agent is you have to test continuously to ensure that your prompts are being correctly digested, and then obviously the actions and the output is also correct. So the create email marketing cloud email action has been selected, so we're good to go from that front. So now if I go back into marketing cloud and I refresh this, okay, awesome. So you can see that the name of the email has been captured into the email name. We called it MC Learning Camp Summer Sale. Within the Apex class, we've defined that I should add a timestamp into the email. And if I click into the email itself, you can see that it used Agentforce created a subject line that is tailored to this campaign. It also used a similar pre-header, but slightly shorter. Based on the instructions that we have defined, for example, first name, you can see that it's now being applied into the email body copy. And again, the body copy here as well is defined by the agent itself as well. So to summarize, based on the actions, based on the topics, and obviously the instructions, we were able to create an email directly by using simple prompts, by integrating both your Salesforce org and your Marketing Cloud instance. Okay, so I'm hoping everyone is excited to see what's possible. So as I mentioned, this is just an example. You can definitely make this more fancier if you wanted to. So I'm going to go back into my slides and take you through the last part of our demonstration. So the next part is how we can create your journeys. Okay, again, similar sort of fashion, we'll be using a specific action to create your journeys. We would have Apex classes and actions created to do that for you. In this example, instead of just using an action immediately, we're actually going to be using a flow. And within the flow, there'll be multiple steps that would create the emails. And then once it creates the emails, it will create the journey. Once we've defined that, we create that as an action, and we add it to the actual topic. And we also, it's very, very important that we define the inputs and outputs. Okay, so I'm going to go back and show you how that's done. So if I refresh this, close this down, and click on my topics. Okay, and then click on journey creation. So very similar to the email creation, but instead of, as I mentioned, instead of just using an Apex immediately, we'll be using a flow in this example, and I'll take you through how that looks like in a moment. Specific instructions is very important. So again, creates a tool email marketing journey in Marketing Cloud with wait steps defined. So all this information is going to be, again, required from the user within the prompt, and then that will be used directly within the conversation itself. And again, very similar fashion, very, very important. We have to define the inputs and the outputs. So the inputs is what's going to be required is the email 1 copy, because we are defining a 2-step journey, email 1 and email 2. So you have email 1 copy, email 1 name, email one pre-header, subject line, and so on, and then repeating it itself again for the second email. So email two, again, similar sort of values that's going to be required. The journey name, what do you want to call the journey, and what is the purpose of this journey, and what is its target audience? And the wait duration, how long should you wait between every single step? So all these inputs are going to be required within the flow itself, and it's also going to be required when you type that into the conversation. And then as an output, the only thing that we're displaying into the conversation by ticking this box is to show the name of the created journey and share that this was successfully created within the conversation itself. Okay. So if I scroll to the top and click on this button, this is loading Flow Builder directly into the setup. Okay, so there's obviously multiple variations of flows that you can create. In this example, we're using a auto-launched flow, so non-trigger based, and within that we are defining a list of Apex actions that's going to be used to create the two different emails that I mentioned. And finally, the third step is to actually create the journey itself by using the two different emails that we created. On the left-hand side, if I click on the panel, we have to define the variables that's going to be needed to for the action within Agentforce to recognize those values and create those. So as I mentioned over here on this step, everything that I've specified as an input on the left-hand side is going to be required when you create the flow. Okay, so every single value here is going to be required. And when you create a new variable, and if I click into this one here as an example, you can see here that it's you have to make sure that this checkbox is ticked. Okay, so it's available for input. So this is going to be needed to pass through into the action itself. And within the Apex actions as well, this is also defined. So if I click on over here and click on Edit Element, it's going to show the list of attributes or variables that's going to be needed to create this email. So again, 4 variables are needed: your email copy, your email name, the subject, and pre-header for the first email. And the second email, similar setup, but instead of email 1, we're capturing email 2 copy for every single variable. And then finally, for the journey itself, it will be capturing the values that will be generated from these different actions. So the legacy ID is going to be the unique identifier for that email template that's going to be shown in the email itself. Your journey name, and again, similar thing for second email, what the wait duration is, the pre-header, and then the pre-headers as well. Okay, so let's just quickly summarize this page. Okay, so we have to create an auto-launched flow which has multiple steps, which the action is going to call when you prompt it. We're creating 2 different emails, and then lastly, we're creating the journey. Within every single action, there are a list of attributes or variables that it's going to be needed to create those activities, and then that is also defined within the action itself. Okay, so if I quickly go back now, and we'll use this again, I'm gonna use a simple prompt that I have ready. Okay. Hit enter. Okay, awesome. So similar to the previous conversation, we're selecting the correct topic again. So the marketing journey creation topic with all the defined instructions that we have already have defined. And then on the right-hand side, it needs additional details for the agent to create the journey within Marketing Cloud. So the 3 key areas is, one was the objective, the target audience, and then the wait duration. So I'm going to go back and say to welcome new joiners who have signed up on the website. Second point, new subscribers only. And third, a 3-day wait period. Okay, and hit enter. So what's the agent doing right now is obviously capturing the inputs that I've defined. It's making a call directly into Marketing Cloud, and based on the information that I've submitted to the prompt. And as again on the left hand side, the good thing here is it picked up the right action. So in the previous conversation, it selected the email creation action. But in this example, for this conversation, it selected the journey creation agent flow. Okay, so we know now the right action has been selected to create this the journey. It provided me the name of the journey, so welcome journey for new subscribers. So now if I go back into Journey Builder and just refresh this page. Okay, awesome. I just love it when everything works. So welcome journey for new subscribers. You can see that the journey has been created via Apex. It created two-step journey for me. So the first step is welcome to our community. The wait period that I've asked in my prompt, which is 3 days, has been defined and correctly set up. And then the second email as well is a follow-up email after 3 days of exploring some of the benefits. And similar to how the first email was created, if I go back, how we have one email was created previously, because this is created a two-step journey. If I again refresh this, you can see now there's 2 additional emails that was created over here. Okay, you can see here, welcome new subscribers with a timestamp with the subject line of welcome to our community, and then the second follow-up email and discover your benefits as a second step. So it created those in steps by the flow that we've created using email 1, email 2, and then thirdly the journey itself with the 2 steps defined in the journey. All right. I hope you've enjoyed how amazing Agentforce is. So I'm going to close this with possible further enhancements. So look, as I mentioned, this is an example and a snapshot of what you can do with Agentforce, and the possibilities are endless. If you're familiar with Apex classes, if you're familiar with obviously with Agentforce, combining all these features and capabilities with Marketing Cloud, you can definitely build the necessary actions and topics to make the life of a marketeer much easier. So as I mentioned, I wanted to touch on some examples. So over here is creating email templates and then let the agent to select the right one. So in our example, we used only one email template, so you're not limited just to one. You can create as many email templates as you want. You can again add multiple sender profiles. So similar to how we just created the custom object to store the delivery profile, the sender profile, and the classification, you can have the custom object to store multiple sender profiles depending on the nature of the campaign. Go beyond email. So this is not just for email only. You can have Agentforce to build SMS, WhatsApp, and push messages for you, and make that journey totally multi-channel. You can also define the scheduling of your journey. So when we defined the journey, it was an open journey with a data extension and an entry source not defined. You can expand that and to make sure that your entry source has been selected, your scheduling time has been defined. So all that can be defined directly within the agent itself as well. You can create an action to trigger a test send, which is very beneficial when it comes to testing. So you can expand on the agent to send test emails into your inbox before you broadcast that message. You can use, again, decision splits for personalization. So for every activity that is available within Journey Builder, so all the flow controls on the left-hand side, that can be defined within the instructions and within the action itself. So all that can be defined directly within the prompts. You can add also, obviously, custom activities. So for those who are not familiar with custom activities, if you wanted to use, for example, Line, or if you wanted to use integrate to a third-party vendor, you can also use Agentforce to add the custom activities to your journey as well. And obviously, the integration, you're not just limited to Marketing Cloud only. You can definitely apply this for account engagement. You can apply this based on today is Marketing Cloud engagement. And then, as I mentioned at the start of the call, if you've missed the last session on the Marketing on Call series, Claudia showed how you can use Agentforce to create email copy, content, landing pages, all by using simple prompts. All right. Thank you very much. That's what I had for you today. I hope you found it useful. I'm just going to jump on for Q&A. I'm sure there's been some questions that's come through the chat. JB, is there anything specific that we should be answering?
Thanks for the insightful session, Ali. There were many people asking for the GitHub repository link and also the step-by-step instructions of the entire process.
Sure. We can share that. So for anybody who's registered on the Trailblazer Community Group portal, we have all your email addresses captured. So we'll follow up with an email with the GitHub repository and a step-by-step process and how you can get this done.
Thanks, Ali. Thanks, Sijin, for answering the questions in the chat. Please chime in, Sijin, if anything is not covered. I will go from the last, Ali. Can we also define journey setting directly from Agentforce?
Yeah, I was going to let Steen answer that. Yes, absolutely, 100%. Everything can be configured within Agentforce. So the urgent settings, as I mentioned, the scheduling, the entry source, all that can be defined directly into the action itself. And then as long as it's been defined within the Apex class as well, within the action, we can have all the necessary settings defined within that as well.
Wonderful. I also saw one question about creating the data extensions using Agentforce. I'm not sure if Stijn has already answered it.
Yeah, so we have actually another demo account that we've done this. What I'll do is I'll share the instructions and how that can be done. We have done that in the past. It's absolutely possible. You can create simple prompts to create data extensions into Marketing Cloud, and then you can leverage the data that you have in your core CRM or even Data Cloud to ingest any data that you might have directly into that data extension. So 100% possible because we've done it. It's definitely doable.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. What are the API limits for creating these journeys from Agentforce?
That's a very, very good question. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I'll double check and I'll get back. I'll get back to the answer, JB.
Perfect. Are the journey settings subject to hallucinations, or are they hard set within the Apex class?
It's hard set. So you define that directly within the Apex itself. And then as long as you have defined the necessary inputs within the action itself, and you define that within the prompt, no, there's definitely no hallucinations there.
Wonderful. And do we need to have Apex knowledge to get this done? If somebody who is a beginner and doesn't know Apex.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had to learn Apex last week to build this demo. Thankfully, I had Steen with me who understand Apex, and we got this done. But because we'll be sharing the GitHub repository, and we'll be sharing some sample code, and once you have the template and the exact shell, it's easily sort of configurable and amended as per your needs. So you can definitely reuse that, but Apex class is definitely needed to create those actions and to communicate between Salesforce and Marketing Cloud, core and Marketing Cloud.
Thank you for that, Ali. Next question. How will Agentforce handle privacy laws like GDPR while sending emails?
That's I mean, as part of the guardrail within agents. So obviously, Agentforce, we don't, there's the masking and demasking sort of elements when you communicate to an agent. So PII data will never be stored at all. So from that perspective, is GDPR compliant. But from a consent management, that is definitely defined within the marketing strategy that you would have created within when you start using Marketing Cloud. So, but from data masking, that's already embedded into the guardrails of Agentforce.
Yeah, and I want to add one more thing to that. Where we specify what that Senate profile should be on the custom object, we also specify the Senate classification there. So currently we selected the commercial Senate classification, so that your consent will be honored within Marketing Cloud essentially.
Wonderful, thank you. And what does the credit consumption look like for this model?
That's also another great question. I don't know the answer on top of my head, JB. We'll make sure that's captured and answered when we follow up with the email.
Sure, thank you. Would it be safe to say that standard rate is applied for each call in prompt to generate the email or journey into MCE?
Correct.
Okay.
Agreed.
Is it possible to perform rendering tests across the devices and operating systems using Agentforce?
Not natively, no. I mean, that's something that will be done within the platform itself of Marketing Cloud. So with Marketing Cloud, you obviously can do preview testing, and you also have the Litmus integration directly into Marketing Cloud. So you'll be able to leverage that integration to preview the email itself across multiple browsers and devices. But Agentforce will not be able to generate a preview of the email itself. That will be done within Marketing Cloud itself.
Awesome. So I have turned on the unmute access permissions to everyone. Anyone has any further questions, please raise your hand. So we will take the questions directly. So in the meantime, Ali, there are 2 more questions in the chat. What is the difference between the agents you showed with Marketing Cloud Engagement and the agents of Marketing Cloud on Core?
I mean, there are different ways that you would have different topics and different actions. Okay, I mean, the what the agent is meant to do is going to be defined when you create the topic itself, right, with the list of instructions and the inputs. There's going to be an out-of-the-box campaign agent that's going to be created by Salesforce, and it'll be natively available when you have that turned on. But obviously for the sake of today's demo, we're not using anything that's out of the box. We've created those agents on the customized and bespoke based on the requirements. But from a difference perspective, it's really defined within the topic and within the instructions, and you will define what each agent will do by making sure that your topic has been created in the right manner.
Perfect. And
Sir, I have one question.
Yes, please go ahead, Bilal.
Yeah. So suppose if I'm working on Marketing Cloud Engagement only, so being working on Marketing Cloud Engagement itself, so would I be able to use all these features of Agentforce since I don't have much idea of working on flows and creating Apex classes?
So conversational prompts within Marketing Cloud Engagement itself is not currently available. There are generative AI capabilities that you can use today. For example, creating email copy and creating subject line copy, and also using some of the predictive AI capabilities, send optimization, frequency capping, and engagement scoring. So all those features are AI and Einstein driven, but to have conversational sort of prompts, that's not currently available today on Marketing Cloud Engagement.
Okay.
So I have one more question from the chat, Ali.
Sure.
This is about the images used in the email. How do we handle the images? Is that dynamic or static image?
So in today's example, that was static. So the within over here, if I just quickly take a step back, over here, and then the email data. So the email template that I've defined here, that is a static image source URL that I've defined in the email template. But that doesn't mean that it's always going to be static. You can absolutely 100% make that dynamic. So as long as you define that in your action, and you also define that that variable string. So obviously you can define multiple variables in your within the actions itself, and then you'll be able to have those images to be dynamic. But in today's example, that was static. But to answer the question, you can definitely make that dynamic.
Awesome.
Whilst you're on the screen, people are asking how they can create additional email templates. Can you touch on that, please?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, so simply just hitting, once you created the custom object and you defined the fields, if I click on new, and over here, you'll have basically the name. So I can call this MC Learning Camp email template. And then the MCE email payload is going to be the full HTML. And that is it. It's as simple as that. So as long as you have created the custom object with the necessary fields, you can create as many email templates as long as you have pasted the HTML directly into the payload.
Yeah, for the people with a marketing cloud engagement background, so custom objects, you can compare them to data extensions in marketing cloud essentially, with way more features.
Thank you. I saw Bilal. Bilal, please ask your question.
Yes, thank you. So I was asking, like, how can we get the feedback if the journey or the email was not created using the Agentforce API?
So that will be shown in the app itself. So if I go over here, so if the email was not created, the actual conversation itself, it will tell you whether there was any problems, whether you've hit an API limit, whether the audience was not defined properly, there was a problem with the action itself. So everything will be visible within the conversation as well. And given that I mentioned that every single session over here is going to be captured into Data Cloud within the log. So if there was an issue, let's just say you activate the journey and you're not using the previous screen to test this out. If there was an issue, that error will be logged directly into Data Cloud. So you can always go back and see what was the issue and troubleshoot it that way.
Okay, and one more thing, like to add more activities of Journey Builder, like decision split or any other activities. So what changes of the Apex do we have to do? Like we need to change what basically in the Apex? Or
Yeah, exactly. So you would have to first of all amend the Apex class to store the additional input that you would need to create those additional flow controls or those tactics. And then over here, when you're building the flow itself on the left-hand side, you'll have all the list of variables that's going to be needed to define these activities to be created within a journey. So as long as you have defined the Apex class to digest and store the information that you need to create those additional activities, and you've defined the variables, and then obviously within the action itself, then yes, it will be you'll be able to create those additional tactics.
Okay, and similar thing we can do in the Automation Studio for Automation Studio and Query Builder.
Correct. I mean, this is just an example. Given that Salesforce Marketing Cloud has an open API, and then if you browse the REST API library, the amount of APIs that are available are endless, right? So this is just an example where we're using the Journey Builder API to create those journeys. But if you wanted to create automations, if you wanted to, as part of the enhancement slides that are shown, to create multi-channel journeys, SMS, WhatsApp, as long as it's available within the API, that can be defined within the Apex action.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Winan, please go ahead.
Hey, Ali. Quick question. When you're creating the topics, does the flow have to be created before the topic is created or after the topic is created? Or does it prompt you within the flow, within the topic to create what kind of action you want or Apex class?
No, it's you don't need to create it first. So I would the steps would be is I would create my topic first, and then once I've defined the scope, the classification and instructions, then I'll create my my action. The action will then be the flow. Okay, so then that's when you go and create the flow. So it's important that you define the topic first before you create the flow, which would be the action itself.
So it's within the topic that it prompts you what you want to add.
Exactly, correct. So within if I quickly go back over here. So within the topic itself, so once you've defined the classification, the scope, and the list of instructions, you'll have a list of actions that's going to be defined within this topic itself. And depending on the action itself, once you have the conversation directly with an agent, it will know which action to select. So in this example, it will select the flow to create the journey itself, and then that's when you go in and you build your flow within Flow Builder.
Okay, right, cheers.
Any more questions, JB?
There is one more. Sorry, I can't say the name correct.
Jimmy, hey Josna, are you talking
Yeah,
about me?
please go ahead.
Hey Josna, thank you. Hello to all the luminaries on this call. Just a quick question. We saw the example where we are creating the email and the journeys. Will the Agentforce can handle if there is a complex journey existing, or like has multiple emails, notes, and everything, and we want to enhance it into a new version?
Yes, I mean, I haven't done it myself, to be honest with you. But again, similar fashion, right? You can create additional versions by leveraging the API that's available. So you can, when you create the new version, it's going to be essentially a blank canvas, or it's going to be based on the existing version. You can amend the journey itself by prompting it by using some of the actions that you had already predefined. I haven't, to be honest, I haven't done it myself, so I don't know what are the required steps needed in order to make this work. But from an API perspective, obviously, it's possible. We just need to have the right actions and the right instructions defined in order to do that. So the answer for me, to be honest, yes, it's definitely possible. I just haven't done it myself to tell you exactly how it should be done.
Okay. And if I'm understanding it correct, it should be more coded into the Apex class, like
Correct.
okay. Thank you very much. Thanks.
No worries.
Wonderful. I don't see any other questions.
Brilliant.
Yeah, thank you for answering all the questions, Ali and Station. Thanks for your time.
No worries. Thank you for everyone on the call. I hope you guys found it valuable and informative. As promised, we'll be sharing the GitHub shortly, and then you have my details on the slides when I first shared it. Please feel free to reach out if you have any more questions.
So everyone, the recording will be shared at the YouTube channel @MC Learning Camp, and make sure you're checking the description area where we'll be sharing all the links, or link to the slide deck and the GitHub and all the useful resources. Thank you for joining today, and we hope to see you next Thursday. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.